All right, so we are here with Chef John Tesar. Thank you so much for talking to us again.
You're welcome.
You've always been so nice to try Dallas. I'm here with our assistant Amy as well. It's our first time on an interview, so we picked you. You were our first last time too.
Yes.
First time we did an interview. So we're here tonight, I guess, on the day of your big fight with Bobby Flay. We know you can't talk about that too much, but anything you want to say?
Watch. No, I would just watch. You know, Bobby and I have been friends for a long, long time. I first met him one evening at Mesa Grill with a realtor, and I think it was in the 80s, you know, or maybe early 90s. So I've watched his, you know, rise from just being like a redheaded kid from, I think he's from Brooklyn or something like that,
Yeah.
or the Bronx.
He's definitely not Southwest. He's not from Texas.
No. That was the amazing part. You know, one time I worked at Arizona 206, which was a southwestern restaurant in New York City that was very, very popular. And Brendan Walsh was the chef. He was in the CIA. He's now a dean at the CIA. But this is going back to the mid '80s. It was the most popular southwestern restaurant in the country. He had worked for Jeremiah Tower and had come back to New York, and this thing was a phenomenon.
Yeah.
And then Brendan went away, and Bobby Flay replaced him. And I just found it so interesting that like two of the best, other than Rick Bayless, obviously, you know, and that's really authentic Mexican food. That the two of the best like southwestern chefs in America, other than Dean Ferring and Stephen Piles, are Irish kids from Connecticut and upstate New York. You know,
Isn't that
or
crazy?
from parts of New York.
Well, it's funny. I was talking to Chef Piles maybe about a month ago, and we were talking about he had just come back from Cuba.
Yeah.
And so we were talking about Mexican, you know, Cuban cooking, Latin cooking, and I'm Latin. Now my cooking it's okay. So we're talking about the whole Latin thing and how he spent time with Bobby Flay, and kind of exactly the same story of how, you know, here you have this redheaded guy who's a master at Latin cuisine, but you're opening up a restaurant actually that's an Italian restaurant, right?
My Italian restaurant is something I'm very excited about. It's called Gravy 51. It's across the street from the mansion on Turtle Creek, which is how I started here in Dallas. It's on the corner of Gillespie and Turtle Creek. In that Plains Capitol building, we're actually cutting the corner out, extending it to the curb. There'll be a large patio with 2 fire pits and a bar looking out onto the mansion lawn, ironically, and inside a 125-seat Italian restaurant, focusing on mostly handmade pastas.
Amazing. So where would you, I guess, put it at as far as the level of cuisine that it's going to be? Are you looking for it to be a 4-star restaurant, a 5? Is it going to be more casual? What's it going to be?
I have a different approach to that. You know, I've kind of like devalued the rating system in my own head. You know, not because of my dislike of certain critics or my opinion. It's just that at this point in my career, I think I'm good enough to judge what we're doing. After Spoon, I proved it at Spoon, I proved it at Knife. Hopefully I'll be able to achieve that again at Gravy, in the sense that I'll know that what we're doing is qualitative, it's different, and I think in this case, somewhat affordable. We're not taking reservations, and you know, there will be extremely approachable, casual, but well executed. So for me, it's more of an overall picture of the opportunity first, then the design and the decor, the concept in itself of authentic Italian food, and then execution. And once we've accomplished all that, I don't care about stars and hopefully we have a full dining room, and you know, of course, hopefully we're making money and actually proud of what we're doing, more importantly.
Absolutely. And stars, you're right. Stars don't mean anything. And to me, it's
stars
more
can be
about,
bought, and it seems like they're all bought these days. So, in some way, shape, or form, there's some kind.
It's all PR and media, right?
I mentioned this the other day too. It's like, you know, it's a business. You know, it's like professional sports, the same thing. I mean, people have gripes. Everything's become so much about making millions and millions of dollars and being the one, like the magazine or the venue or the chef of the moment, you know, and those are great things, and I think in the evolution of our business, they were really necessary or appropriate. But now that it's so broad and there's so much competition, and there's so many people jumping in the arena of opening restaurants, it's kind of manipulated and predictable almost, and it's almost temporary in the sense that people get hot for a year or two or whatever, as long as you keep going, like a David Chang, you know, like you just can do no wrong, so to speak, and there's no reality to it. And I'm not saying that it's good or bad. I just think there's a reality to it. It's become so subjective. So and then you have Yelp and Facebook and Twitter where people can comment instantaneously or put food pictures up. So that hasn't really caught up to the critics who don't want to lose their jobs, or the people that give out star ratings, because it used to be that defined you, or that led the consumer to you, And now, really, word of mouth and social media are far more powerful than a newspaper review.
Absolutely, and that's really the approach that we've taken with Delos. So we're not about reviews. We're really not about any of that more so than just let's expose the community to what's out there, right?
Yeah.
If there's a great restaurant, let's let the community know about it so that they can try it. What's unique about the restaurant? I was showing Amy, who had not been into your restaurant yet, and she walks in and she sees the meat. And she says, "What is this?"
That's nice.
That's nice.
That's nice.
So I give her my explanation. Why don't you give her yours?
Well, I was asked to create. Behringer Harvard owned the hotel, and it was a Kimpton hotel when we first started. I had Spoon. I had known Jeff Burns and Michael O'Hanlon, who work in that division of Behringer Harvard, and they had approached me a year prior to opening and asked me if I wanted to take this project on, with the one caveat that it had to be a steakhouse. And I was fearful because there's so many steakhouses, and I mean, there's even more now since we've opened this downtown by Clyde Warren. I think there's like 5 steakhouses within 2 blocks of each other, which is a little insane, but that's Dallas. We always go to extremes here. So I went out and I just tried to approach it from a chef's perspective. And then we found 44 farms. We got really lucky with product, and I'll have to tell you, last night I have 2 chefs here from Hawaii. Sheldon Simeon, who was on Top Chef with me, is here with the Hawaiian Tourism Board. So we did lunch today. We're doing lunch tomorrow for some travel writers and stuff like that.
Ooh, awesome.
And my point was that we built Knife with that we had to be different. I was afraid, and Behringer Harvard took their time giving me the opportunity, so I took that time and prepared for it rather than just like saying, oh, we're not going to get it. I went out it every day and just kind of did it. And when we met 44 Farms, and what I was saying about those guys last night, we had a steak that was 400 years old, 400 days old, and it was the best steak I've ever had in my entire life. And Mike Killer was here, who's a doctor but also a food blogger, who was the steak lover of all time. And then I had David Hale Smith with a bunch of writers that he was representing last night at another table with Steve Stodshill, who's a prominent attorney here, another great steak lover. And we sent them out one too. And we had done 240 before, and we had done it with several cuts of meat. But the 44 Farms feed program, the genetics, everything that I thought would work here has proved itself times 10 last night with that 400-day-old steak. So now we're going to take the steaks even longer, and we'll have that as a specialty item. By no means is the heart and soul of Knife, but it's just super interesting stuff to be able to play around with. And from the diner's perspective, it's the best steak I've ever had in my life.
For the connoisseur of meat, right?
Yeah, for someone who really understands the dry aging process, that really is a steak lover, and knows, and specifically a ribeye person, they eat the spinalis, they eat the inside, because I think making prime rib out of ribeye is a waste of time. It's like bubble gum. So it's just, see what I'm saying? I can't just nail down Knife. It's like every day we learn something, we look at it, we try to understand why we're doing it, and then if it's good, we give it to the consumer, and that comes back to us because they enjoy it. And that's the process I try to do with every restaurant, and that's what we'll try to do with Gravy too. Is just be authentic, produce, just like I say, forget about all the whistles and bells, just make it taste delicious. And then give me some good service, and what else?
That's all you need, right? A great ambiance.
The rest is a show,
It is. It's just about bringing the right people with you too, isn't it?
Yeah,
so tell us about 44 Farms. So I'm interested in that because I'm really interested in, I've been doing a lot over at the farmers market, and I'm really interested in what they're doing down there right now with making sure that they're visiting farms, everything's local. At home I try to use everything that's local as well. So is that something that you're trying to do here too with that?
Well, it wasn't. I'll be honest with you, there's all this farm to table jibber jabber around, and I know a lot of chefs that really do have relationships with farmers. And when I was younger and I lived in Long Island, I had guys bring me zucchini blossoms and baby carrots in the summer and stuff like that. So I think any good chef has been doing that for a really long time. I think what happens is the swing for processed foods and the GMOs and all of the awareness and Michael Pollan's books and stuff like that created a niche or a conversation of like, how do we get healthier? And then there is always the economics of big farming, corporate farming against small farming. And Willie Nelson and Farm Aid really were the people that started that whole, we can't let the modern American farmer disappear. We just happen to live in a very rich agricultural state,
right?
And cattle is a large part of it, but very rarely does the cattle that gets raised here or spawned here get eaten, except in the shape of a ground patty. So when I found 44 Farms, I had been to Heartbrand and Akiushi, and Pat Sharp had done a big article in Texas Monthly about this particular breed. And in 1992, I think when Reagan was the president, they had lowered a trade embargo with Japan. They had some kind of exchange because of the amount of real estate investment and imports to America. So they were able to bring this cattle over. And they did this at Heartbrand and the Akiushi. So here now, 20 years later, how many ever years later it is, there's only half bred left. So it's half Akiushi, half Angus, not pure. There's a couple of the old ones there. And I was intrigued by it, and I tried it, and the meat was phenomenal. But it was a feed program, and in that process, I met the guys from 44 Farms, because they kind of had worked. Jason Schimmels, who was who's now like the brand manager or the sales manager of all of the products at 44 Farms, and I became friends. But I believe he had an association with Heartbrand prior to that, and he learned of the feed program, and they kind of shared information. The difference is that at 44 Farms, they raise Angus bulls, and they sell semen, they track the lineage, and they partner with small farmers who buy the heifers, and they track everything. They track the genetics over and over and over again.
Wow.
And we basically, the steaks we eat, we're killing off the weaker, and we try to raise the level of prime and choice, because all of these other words really don't mean anything in the beef business. Select prime. These are all marketing stamps that they put on to sell meat in the supermarket.
Yeah.
To make you think that it's a better product than what's laying right next to it. And to me, I tell everybody, and the proof really here at night is to eat it.
Yeah.
We eat them side by side. So last night I gave them a steak that was 65 days old and a steak that was 400 days old. And you can see the path of how it came from there to there. And then there's time in between. Like we've done it before. I've done like 60, 90, 150, 240, now 400. And Eater is going to come down from New York, and I think we're going to do something with Nick Solaris and do that. Have Nick photograph like 45 days, 60 days, 90 days, 150 days, 240 days, and whatever we have now, 400, 500 days old, and let him eat it and be the videographer of it also. Stuff like that is fascinating, and that's what I mean. Not just taking where other steakhouses are, like the girls are at the bar with martinis looking for a guy to buy them dinner, and there's salesmen smoking cigars over in the corner with a mediocre filet mignon, and they're all in town on a convention. So life's a little different that way. It's a nicer place to come and really dine.
Yeah.
And experience the flavor of beef, and not only at that high level, the Ozerski hamburger, all the pork belly and the charcuterie that we have and we make here with our friends in Boston. So I mean, I just added on to it and made it like a restaurant, or the steakhouse that I would want to eat at. And I was inspired by a couple of places, Carne Vino. I like Cut, I like Wolfgang Pumpkin. So I kind of combined what I thought I didn't like about. I removed what I didn't like about those two restaurants, and it was basically. Wolfgang's was too French and very expensive and had a lot of Japanese beef on it, which is okay, but it's really very expensive and it's very fatty and you eat small amounts of it. So I understand that, but that's not what I wanted to bring here.
Because you are in Texas.
Yes.
And everything's bigger
And
in Texas.
I thought that was important, and we really were doing farm to table. I mean, the 44 Farm family were in the supermarket business for a long time, and that ranch was in their family for over 100 years.
So where is that ranch?
It's in Cameron, Texas. So if you make this triangle, if this is Dallas, if this is Austin and San Antonio, Cameron is literally right in the middle. It's like it's meant to be.
Yeah.
And it really was. I'm not just saying this. It's not hype.
So is it over by the King Ranch? Which is by Kingsville, Corpus Christi?
No.
No. So it's further up north.
It's further up north. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. My father actually used to own.
Austin is even south of it.
Cattle. I'm sorry.
Austin is an hour and a half south.
Okay.
Southwest, and San Antonio is just like more southeast, but deep south, and then Dallas is straight up north.
So it's down in the hill country, but close enough to here where it's easy to get the meat out.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I also saw, speaking of farm to table, that you guys are doing a fundraiser on Sunday night.
Yeah.
Supper club.
Dallas Restaurant Association. Sharon Van Meter has been a huge advocate and a large force in trying to recruit, just more culinary. Younger people bring energy to it. So she asked Kent Rathburn, Janice Provost from her restaurant, Parisi's, I'm sorry, and myself, and I think there's one other chef who I apologize, or two other chefs that I don't know their names because I haven't met them before. So It's not like
I actually, I'm so embarrassed, early Alzheimer's, but I ran across it and I actually did a piece on it because I wanted to promote it.
Yeah.
Because it is a nonprofit and you guys are raising money for the Restaurant Association.
yes.
Right?
And we are really trying to unify the dining community and be, I think, responsible voices. And this goes back to the whole critic kind of thing. And even Nancy Nichols had something on Facebook this week about just taking a look at our business in general, or writers. And we are kind of at a void for writers, because Nancy's kind of like semi-retired. She blogs a little bit or whatever. Leslie, you know how I feel about her. And there's talk that Leslie might be moving to Southern California because her son goes to school there now, which, I'll have a party if that happens. But those are personal feelings. But then there's a broader picture of it's what they writing and what they're telling you. Is it relevant? Is it honest? And does it have integrity? And is it serving the diner?
Yeah.
And I started to see a while ago that I didn't think, from my perspective, from what I was doing, that it was serving the diner well. And that's really my beef. But that's why the Restaurant Association and chefs coming together and being outspoken about certain things, kind of challenging the system a little bit, keeping up with the times. Because social media and there's a big hipster craze here in Dallas, and we've had trend after trend, and it's the dust is kind of settling on that, and I think you need the Restaurant Association to support all types of restaurants at all levels, because Dallas really is a metroplex, with Fort Worth, and there are many restaurateurs, and it's a shame that people get driven to only the ones that the critic wants to make popular or wants to use for their own advantage, or that it's new and hip. Mm-hmm. And they can write about something that's energy, and the readers go run to it for 6 weeks or 4 months, and we haven't had that problem yet, and because of the concept and the affordability. But that's what we sit around and talk about, and that's why it's important that we have a vibrant, connected, younger, more experienced, less corporate. Because I think sometimes when you have these associations, they need sponsorship and they need funding, and these large food organizations like Cisco or Benny Keith or liquor they're forced to join these because they're sales avenues for these people. They meet the new members.